All right, so I'm going to do something a bit different for this episode, for this video. What I'm going to do is, actually what I should say, let me start off this way actually, because I fucked up. So I'm going to do something different for this video. With the help of AI, and with the help of ChatGPT, I scoured the internet and I found some of the most frequently asked questions by men. And I figured this might be a good chance for me to try to add some value and try to answer as many of those questions as I can in 40 minutes or so. And I have here my beautiful girlfriend / assistant, Miss Ida.
Hi, everyone.
This is her first time on camera, so she's a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But basically what I'm going to do in this video, with ChatGPT, I pulled up like a ton of questions. I think there's like 150, something like that.
Yeah, 135.
135. And it's all of the most frequently asked questions in different categories by men. And I had ChatGPT pull the questions from Reddit and different forums and a bunch of different sources. So I'm going to try to answer them as best as I can. Maybe I won't have an answer. Maybe I will. I'll try to add as much detail and context as possible. And basically the way I'm going to do it is on my phone, I have sort of a random number generator. And I'm going to just have it pick a number at random. And we're going to get into it and see how many of these we can crank out. So, first number is 17.
How can I improve my posture?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, all right, improving posture. You know what's funny? I feel like that's a good question for Leo if you're here, because Leo's always trying to straighten up his posture. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like posture, working out, not slouching, it's kind of just basic stuff. I know one thing, if you're working out, if you work your rhomboids, it's kind of the muscle in the middle of your back. It's kind of like a shield shape, or sort of like almost like a diamond shape. If you work that out, it kind of helps you stand up more straight. Working on your back muscles, of course, helps. The back of your shoulders, sort of the rear delts, that'll help you kind of with your posture. Besides that, standing up straight, making sure you're not always just hunched over at a computer. I know it's hard to do nowadays because everyone's sitting so much, but I would say the more you can stand up, the more you can kind of just straighten up. I would say, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. There was one thing I remember, I used to take this, there's this podcast I used to listen to. I never told you this, called Art of Charm. This is back in college. And they had a rule where if you ever walk into a room, the one guy had sort of a, what's a good way to put it? Sort of, not a test, but it was sort of like a thought type of trigger that you would do. And his recommendation was to put sticky notes on a door frame. So that way, whenever you walk, and this is in your house or your apartment or wherever you live. So when you walk into a room, you see the sticky note. And every time you see it, it reminds you to stand up straight.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And the reason why he would say that is because when you walk into a room, you want to, the first impression he would say, the guy's name was Jordan Harbinger. He would say the first impression's not when you meet somebody. If you go into a public establishment, your first impression is when you first walk to the door. Because when you first walk in, people still see you come in, and then that's the first impression. So the idea was that if you go into a room, you stand up straight, you create a habit, and you carry that habit into any general establishment that you go into.
Do you remember the episode we watched yesterday from Black Mirror that the guy said, "Get in like you belong to the room"?
Yeah,
it's kind of like it.
It's like the pickup guy or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's the same idea. You gotta walk in as if you belong. Standing up straight shows confidence. If you come in slouched over, people are gonna think. I feel like it's subconscious. People are gonna think, "Oh, that guy's low value or low quality," or low self-esteem.
Yeah, maybe shy, low self-esteem, and then.
Yeah. So yeah. For anyone that has bad posture, try that out. Put sticky notes around every door frame in your apartment or house. Whenever you walk into a room, make a habit of standing up straight. And I think that'll fix it, as we're both slouched over. Well, I guess I'm slouched over. You're good. But yeah, I think is that a good answer?
Yeah, I like your answer.
Cool. Let's do the next one.
Okay, what are some good ways to relax and unwind?
There's a lot of good ways to relax and unwind. Sex. No. I mean, I guess that is a good way. That's a good way to relax and unwind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
That's an interesting. It's funny that out of all the questions that it generated, that's a question.
But listen, there is meditation.
Yeah, it's true.
You could have that meditation.
I'm picturing some dudes on like the internet. They're like, I need to find a way to like relax and unwind. How do you guys relax? I've never relaxed before in my entire life. Yeah, I don't know. I guess just like watch TV or like play video games or like not too much where you aren't productive, but
music.
Yeah, music's a good one. I like music. You can zone out with music. I think socializing, hanging out with friends, I think is a pretty good way to relax and unwind. I feel like if I'm like anxious or if I'm like stressed, if I'm around enough people that I like to be around, that sort of makes me a lot less stressed and anxious. I would say that helps me unwind. So, what do you think? What are some of your ways?
I like reading.
Reading? That's a good one.
Book. Yeah, I think meditation and reading music.
Yeah.
That's what I do, I think. Also hiking. Yeah, I like going hiking, but not now like hiking because of the weather. But I really like going hiking, yeah.
I mean, you can hike in like the snow and like the cold. That's good.
Yeah, I have never done it, but
we should try one day. Just like hiking in the cold. We could find a nice mountain. Yeah, just like shorts, shorts and a t-shirt.
Sure.
Hike up in the mountains. But yeah, I think that's good. Is that a pretty good answer? I would say.
I think so. How important is physical appearance in dating?
I'm going to say I think it's very important. But, and I don't know your opinion on this. I'm curious to know your perspective. I think as a guy, I feel like some guys obsess over like if they are like attractive or something like that. Like from a facial perspective, I've seen guys get like really upset about being attractive. And I don't think girls care that much or as much about physical attractiveness as much as men do. I think for men, it's like 80, 90, 95% of overall attraction. But I think for girls or for women, I would like to say personality and other traits probably weigh a lot more. I don't know, just from my personal perspective and personal experiences, I've seen a guy who can be like really overweight and he'll approach and talk to like one of the hottest girls around, but he's so charismatic and he's so confident in himself that the girl doesn't really care that he's overweight. But then I've seen guys who are like really tall and really good looking and girls don't like them because their personality is so weird or so obnoxious that the attractiveness and the height and the maybe even if the guy was in good shape, that all kind of fades away or it doesn't weigh as much. So I don't know. What's your thought on this as a female, as a I should say that as a woman, as a young lady?
I actually agree. I think, your appearance just counts for the first 10 minutes. Like if you, like for me, for example, I wouldn't talk to somebody I don't think is attractive at first for dating. But then like if I'm talking to the person and this person is just, just handsome, just has like a good appearance and has nothing else to show, then I'll lose interest. So
yeah,
I think personality and if confidence and how they put themselves in each situation is gonna say louder than what they look like.
Yeah, I was thinking about what's that show with the Lana, the little, we were watching it a few weeks ago, the little robot you weren't allowed to have sex or touch or anything like that. Oh, it was like a reality TV show on Netflix where it's like the single people, they're in the house And
oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, Too Hot to Handle.
Too Hot to Handle.
Yeah.
Do you remember the tattoo guy? He was like really good looking, and he kind of looked like a bad boy. And he came in, and you would think, oh, this guy's gonna steal all the girls. And then he just started saying dumb stuff, and the girls were just completely uninterested.
Yeah,
and they sent
remember
him home.
that. Yeah, whenever he came in, everybody was like, "Oh, he's handsome," but then everybody lost interest and went back to their couples.
Yeah, so I think that's a good example. Like, I don't know. I think the attractiveness thing, it works to an extent, but I don't think it'll close the deal, so to speak.
Yeah.
I will say I do think that, it's just my personal opinion, I do think that a lot of guys should work on clothing and hygiene. Just like in general, smelling good. If you go to the gym like me, that's a bit different. I haven't been to the gym. But some guys just smell bad in general. And I think clothing is a big thing. I know when I was in college, a lot of guys just didn't care about their clothing. They would wear sweatpants and short, like basketball shorts, dirty t-shirts, just hoodies, which I guess is good for working out and good for just general interactions with your friends. But I don't know. I think if you're a guy that dresses well, has nice fitting clothing, you'll probably stand out a lot more than a dude that looks bummy.
Yeah.
Or just a guy who looks more general, like he didn't really put much effort into his appearance at all. I think the guy that puts in a little bit more effort will stand out.
Yeah. And you said previously that guys care a lot about their facial appearance, like how they look like.
Yeah.
But if you're going to the gym and you pick the right outfit for the right place, it's all about where you're going, what you're doing, and I think that counts a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a solid enough answer. I would say. So.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Let us know in the comments. What do you guys think? All right. Next one.
What are the limits of human knowledge and understanding?
That is an interesting question.
It's a hard question.
It is a very hard question. It's very abstract.
Yeah.
What are the limits of
human knowledge and understanding?
Human knowledge and understanding. Limits. I don't know. Sometimes I think that there is no limit to human knowledge and understanding.
I think that would be a logical answer. Like, you can always learn something.
Yeah. I meant to post about this on Instagram. In our group chat, I shared that one post about AI and how people are scamming with fake audio. Like, they're using the audio of, I guess, relatives or people that are acquaintances to scam, I guess, friends of people.
That's a little scary, but yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Well, to me, it was just funny because AI, I guess mainstream AI use has only been around for a few months, I would say. I mean, I guess it's been around for a while, but in the past few months, I feel like people are really tapping into all of the different tools for AI. And to me, it's interesting how quickly
it's growing. It is growing.
Yeah, like how fast it's growing, but how fast people are finding creative ways to use it to their advantage. Someone sat there and thought, hey, you know what? With deepfake and this audio AI, I can scam people. It's not for a good reason that they're using it, but it's just interesting how quickly a human can adapt and find a new use for basically a tool that just came out or that they just learned about. So
that's a good answer. I would add also that people should be open to learn something new.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we are so like in our comfort zone and we're like, okay, I know this. And then you could always learn something new. You could always read that book and talk to that person that will always know something that you don't and just grow as a person.
Yeah. Do you often find that people don't try to learn new things?
I think so. Yeah. I think people are lazy.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of people are lazy. I don't think it's conscious. I just think they are like so busy doing daily things, going to work, going to school, that they don't spare a little time to better themselves, like to learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And that's everyone, like me included sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to learn new things.
Yeah.
It's mentally challenging, I would say, to try to learn new things. I blame the school system.
Yeah.
That's my thing. As I'm throwing that out there. I blame the school system for that. Let me do the next question.
What is the best workout for building muscle gain?
My answer to this is there is no best workout for building muscle. The only two things really the only one thing that I think matters the most is progressive overload. I would say that's the best concept that people sometimes don't understand or they neglect it. But I think that's the only thing you really need to understand to build muscle. And for anyone that doesn't know what progressive overload is, it's basically you challenge the muscle. A lot of ways to do it. Simplest way is just increase the weight. If you see someone doing a bench press and they have 90 pounds, 240, you can add a 5 to each side, and that'll make the weight heavier. You do that enough until it gets easy. You add 5 more, and that's how you build muscle. Some workouts you can't do that as easily. If you have a bicep curl, for example, you can't really just lift weights until you get to like 100 pounds because physically it doesn't work. It's just a lot of mechanics that won't let that happen. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't think could lift 100 pounds. Maybe he could, I don't know. But in situations like that, if you want to still get to that progressive overload state or try to utilize that, you would decrease the amount of time that you rest, increase the amount of sets, increase the amount of reps. There's a lot of different ways. But it's basically the answer to that question.
I was very excited for this answer because I think a lot of people, like, I would go to the gym. I was going to the gym since 2018.
Yeah.
And I would go to the gym and then I would exercise and then I would lift weights, the same weights, because I was like, in my mind, I was like, I can lift 10 pounds. I can lift 15 pounds. And I would never increase it. And I would just do the sets randomly until I fail. I would never count, never do anything. So yeah, now we are in a program.
How do you think the program's been working so far?
I think it's working.
It's good.
We're gonna have to wait.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in college, I remember we kind of fell into this weird situation where me and my friends were trying to build muscle and it didn't happen. And I'll say this kind of as another answer to that question. I said this to you before too. One thing that a lot of people don't do that I think prevents people from building any muscle is people don't track their workouts. And I remember we would go to the gym and we'd work out and we would sit there and we're like, we're not building any muscle. What's going on? Like the weights feel easy. And then you look at it and it's like, did you track the workout? I remember I had one friend. He would do bench and he would just do it randomly. Like he'd bench Monday, come back 2 weeks later, bench again. The week after that, bench. And it was never any really consistent routine. And he could do the weight, but he never gained muscle. And then by the time we finally got him to start tracking his workouts, and then when he did it consistently, he was like, oh, wait, I'm not that strong, because he would do it when he's always fresh. And he'd always wait 2 weeks to do it or just whatever he felt like it. So he wasn't really challenging the muscle. So
another analogy for this is we use our legs every day to walk.
Yeah.
And if that works like that, we would gain muscle just by walking and running.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to.
Yeah. You have to put on more weight or you have to challenge it more to build muscle. Yeah. Progressive overload and track your workouts.
What is the best diet for building muscle?
Years ago, we were trying to figure this out, me and some friends, like the best diet to build muscle. In general, I would say the best diet involves a lot of protein. Usually the rule is 1 gram for every pound that you weigh. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should eat 150 grams of protein. But I will say this: a lot of people, they try to do fad diets like keto or carnivore diet or paleo, caveman diet, all kinds of different diets. And I think those are fine in general. But what I found is that if it's not sustainable, it won't work, is really what it comes down to. So any diet that you can sustain is the best diet. As long as you're getting, if you're trying to build muscle, as long as you're getting in your protein, getting enough fats, things like that, I think that's the best diet. We know some people, we know a certain Russian guy who's very good at eating just meat and like only meat. That's all he eats pretty much for the most part, just meat. I can't do it. I can't eat just meat just because I don't have the patience to go out to a restaurant and make sure that they only serve me meat with no bread, no vegetables, no starches of any kind. I don't have the patience. I just don't care enough to do it. I've seen some people who are really disciplined and they carry a scale with them wherever they go because they want to really measure to the gram everything they eat. I can't do that. I don't care enough to sit there and do that for every meal. And then I've seen people who just eat anything they want. I had roommates who would eat literally garbage food, like junk food, and they ended up building a lot of muscle. And then when they wanted to cut, they just stopped eating. They didn't eat that much junk. They still ate junk, but it was less junk than when they were trying to gain muscle. So they stayed under their caloric needs. I'll put it that way. And then they got really cut. So, yeah, whatever diet you can sustain is the best diet. I don't like fad diets. I think unless you're really disciplined and you really like the diet and really fits your lifestyle, I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, whatever diet you can sustain is the best diet. What do you think about that?
Well, I've tried a few diets.
Because she's vegan.
So I'm not vegan. I do eat white meat. So I would eat fish and chicken. And then I've tried doing a lot of white meat, like a lot of chicken and now a lot of eggs. We recently got a scale, so we're gonna plan our meals by the menu, so we know exactly how many calories, how many protein we're eating per day. But yeah, my goal was always to gain muscle. So I'm still in the process. So
cool. All right. 56.
What are some common dating mistakes to avoid?
I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. I have my own opinions. I guess it's for men, so I have my own thoughts. But what do you think are some common dating mistakes that men make that they should avoid?
I've known a few friends experience that they would go on a date and people would be like, "Oh, you're so pretty. I love you so much. I love spending time with you. We'll see each other tomorrow again. What's your schedule look like?" And then they would text. They go on a date. They'll text the whole day, next day, and the whole day after it, and the whole day after it, and so the girl gets overwhelmed because it's a lot of texting, it's a lot of things, and then she's there thinking, well, what does this guy do with his life that he's texting me all the time? I think I'm not saying that girls doesn't like to receive texts. That's not it. It's just like if you just met somebody, I think there is no need for you to be that intense. I think you go on a date and then you may text tomorrow and then maybe wait for her to shoot you a text. So like you guys are dancing. She talks a little bit and you talk a little bit. Otherwise, it's like too overwhelming, I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I mean, I agree. There's a lot of different perspectives I have.
Okay. Let's listen.
But yeah, I think don't be needy. I guess it's pretty much what you're trying to say. Yeah. The guy's texting her too much and then she gets overwhelmed and she's like, why is this guy always
And there is also another analogy. What if, because it could be a red flag too. If the person is giving you too much attention, she could be there thinking, is he love bombing me? So is he gonna try to manipulate me later?
You know, I love how that's the first. Is he manipulating me? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I'm thinking of, but I feel like it depends. I don't know. I wish that question was more specific. I'm trying to think of like, this is one. I don't know. This is one that I think most girls will disagree with this, but this is my personal philosophy, and she's gonna get mad at me in like 2 seconds for saying this.
No, I'm not.
I think if you're a single dude and you're not in a relationship and you're just dating, I think your best option is to have multiple girls you're talking to at one time. And I'll tell you why.
That sounds so bad. Okay,
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I think, I don't know, this is my personal experience. Because you mentioned the whole he's texting too much and he's kind of giving too much attention. And I think if you were trying to, I'm not saying like have a girlfriend and then talk to 1,000 other girls, but I think if you're single and you haven't really, if you don't have sort of a exclusive relationship with one girl, I think it's better for a guy to talk to multiple girls at one time. And the reason why I think that is because, say for example, one girl, you're going to get coffee with her and she flakes and you don't hear from her again for maybe a week or two. What a lot of dudes do, and what I was guilty of in the past, is you get really anxious and you think, what is she thinking about me? Is she with another guy? Then you start texting all day and you start freaking out. Then you get nervous about the relationship or the non-existent relationship. Then she gets overwhelmed. And then she's like, oh, he's so needy. I hate this guy. This guy's just annoying. And then you end up losing her anyway. But I think if you're kind of going on different dates with a bunch of girls at one time, you don't really have that same neediness. It kind of goes away. And you also don't really get super anxious. You don't really have that, I don't know, you keep an abundance mentality, I think is a good way to put it. I said that to girls in the past and they got mad at me. But before you get mad, my counter to this is that girls do this naturally anyway, because if you're a girl, there are always guys trying to hit on you. So girls always have multiple options. And I think as a guy, it's a bit more difficult because you have to actively find different girls to have other options. Where I think if you're a girl, you can have Instagram and the guy will DM you. But I think it's in the guy's best interest to have other girls he's talking to until he's dating a girl. Once you're exclusive, then be exclusive. But up until that point, I think it's better to talk to a few different girls. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I agree.
She's about to break up with me.
Don't talk to my boyfriend. No, I think I agree. Because at the beginning, there is not a commitment. So you can really be making it a relationship without having that talk. But I think girls do it too. I don't think it's like just guys. So I think girls start talking to a guy, and if they like him, they'll get very excited and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk to another guy. And then the other guy goes and ghosts them the next day. And they're like, okay, well, there was a guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keep it open. Everyone, keep your options open. And if you like the person, just have the talk. Hey, do you like me?
Do you like me? We need to DTR, define the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one I would think is a big one. As far as like dating mistakes for guys, one that comes to mind at least. I got another one really quick. Because I know a few guys that I think do this. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. I think something that girls find annoying, this is just my personal observation / opinion. I think girls find it annoying when guys try to what's the word for it? Like over impress them. Kind of like if you go on a date, I think girls would find it annoying if you spent 90% of the date talking about yourself and you're like, yeah, my name is John. I'm John. I'm the man. I do this. I drive like this car. I work like all these hours. I do this. Yeah, on the side, I do like charity. I do this. And the entire time she's sitting there like, yeah, I don't know. That's just my personal. I've seen guys who try to overqualify. That's the word I'm looking for. They try to overqualify themselves, and they try to impress the girl with all of their accomplishments.
Which even if it's true, I think you should let them find out. So that's what is nice. At a first date, you just need to make them curious so that they want to see you again. I think that's the game.
Curious. It's a good word. I like that. You hear that, guys? Yeah. No, I completely agree. I've seen guys do that. I've been guilty of that myself. Try to overqualify yourself, and then she's like, oh, this guy's kind of annoying. I'll never talk to him again. Bye. It's like, why didn't she call me back? I thought I was cool. 46.
What is the best way to find a good real estate deal?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's no such thing as the best real estate deal. I think depending on your circumstances, a deal could be good or bad. And I feel like people don't really understand that concept. There's basic things like doing the math. If you buy a property, is it going to cash flow? Is it in a good area? Will it appreciate? One rule I've heard, and I'm sure this is true, if a Starbucks is in the area, it's probably not a bad idea to buy. Assuming the math works out and assuming that a property will cash flow based on whatever mortgage you get, if there's a Starbucks, that's probably a good sign that you should buy in that area. And the reason is because, from what I understand, Starbucks spends a lot of money on sort of understanding what a good location to put a Starbucks is. So if a Starbucks is willing to put a store in a specific area, that means that they believe it's an up and coming area, and they spend millions of dollars on research on the zone, on the real estate, and the entire area in general. So that's probably a good bet if you're trying to find a good deal. If there's a Starbucks, probably look around there. You probably won't find a Starbucks in a really bad area, because Starbucks won't spend the money or the time or the effort investing in a low quality area. But yeah, I would say another thing too. The more money you have on hand, the more you can negotiate, the more you can have leverage in a deal, and the better the deal you can get. If you're someone who has $2 million liquid, a deal for you will be a lot easier than some guy who has $20K, and he needs to make that $20K work. Because especially in a harsh market, someone might come in and offer $20K above asking, or $30K above asking. Or in this recent market during COVID, people are offering, I know some areas in like Falls Church, people are offering like $100,000 over asking. So if you don't have cash, it's more difficult to compete. So yeah, I feel like there's no real answer to that. You can't really find the best deal. You have to create the best deal. Real estate gets complicated because there's a lot of different ways. You can do seller financing, all kinds of different stuff, which is too complex to get into in this video, because that's probably a whole 3-hour video in itself.
I have a question on that topic. So when is it the time for you to negotiate with the owner? Let's say you found a deal, and then you're like, that was so close from what I have, so I want to negotiate. How does that work? Like, do I have to submit an application or?
Yeah, so usually once you find a property, you would submit an offer, and usually in that case, if it's a good property and if it's probably a good deal, you're probably going to be competing with other people. So there could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 offers on the table, and you probably just want to make your offer stand out as much as possible. And that's when it depends on the market too. If it's a slow market for sellers, then you might not need to negotiate that much, because they might have a lot less leverage. If it's a bad market for buyers, like it's been in the past couple years, you get into a situation where you have no negotiating power and you have very little leverage, and you might have to overpay for a house because Jack and Jill is willing to put $50K above asking into the deal without the owner putting in any renovations, without them cleaning it, without them repairing anything, without any new what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. Kind of like utilities. They might not put anything else into it. So in that situation, you're negotiating, but you might not want to negotiate because the deal might be dead. And then it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. The more cash you have on hand, the more a deal can work for you. Because the numbers might work out, but if someone wants to offer $50K above asking and you only have $25K, there's not much you can do. You're going to lose. You can't win that deal. But if you're someone who has like $2 million you're willing to just blow on finding a property, then you can always say, oh, he's doing $50K, I'll do $75K. It's like Monopoly. Like if you have a lot of money, you can always put out more for a good deal. So hopefully, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you.
But yeah, as far as like the process itself, at least here in Virginia, once you put in the offer, negotiating begins. And the seller might say, hey, my owner likes A, B, and C, but he or she doesn't like this. Are you willing to fix it? And then the seller might do some crazy stuff too. They might say, yeah, my owner is trying to close as quickly as possible, and we have like 5 other offers. It could be a lie. That's part of the game. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If you're watching this, by the way, and you have any real estate questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'll put it somewhere down here. Or send me an email. I help people in all 50 states, so shoot me a email or DM and I can help you. But next question.
How can I meet new people and make friends?
Go outside.
It was just
What do you think about this one? I have some strategies, but
that was always a hard question for me in the United States. Yeah. In Brazil, we don't suffer for that matter. But here, I feel like people are so busy and they are all just so focused on their own lives that I don't really see that opening in everybody to make friends and just like unless you're out, like you said, and in a bar or something with friends too, because I don't know, I never tried to make friends alone, like go to a bar alone. I think there are people who does that, but I don't think I would. But if I am with somebody and I want to be friendly and I want to meet new people, I would just say, hey, bring friends, so that you can meet friends of friends. Yeah,
that's a good way. Yeah, friends of friends is always good.
Unless you're traveling and then you're in a position where you have to meet
new people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would I don't know. One thing I would say, especially if you're a dude, find common interests. I would say some of the general ones is if you like sports, for example, say you like rugby. If you go on meetup.com or one of those websites, Facebook groups, you could probably find like a rugby group that you can participate in. And if they have a meetup or if they have an event, you can go meet people that way. I feel like with guys bond a lot over just sports and a very common interest. Like UFC. If you meet a guy that likes UFC and if you like UFC, guys will sit there for hours and talk about UFC or football. A lot of guys like football. So yeah, because I'm thinking this is for guys. So yeah, that's one way. I would say if you're trying to not use the internet, I would say try to use the internet. It's probably the easiest way. Instagram is great too. If you're in an area, DM people, just compliment them. I feel like people don't really reject compliments. Compliment them, slide into their DM, invite them to an event. I like getting coffee with people. I have weird ways because I have a podcast, so that's kind of my in to meet new people because I can have them on the podcast, and clever little trick to get them to want to actually talk to me, and then from there you can just kind of become friends with them. I would say too, if you're out in like a public place, some people are a bit more shy about this, but if you want to meet someone random, one thing I do sometimes is I like to compliment people's outfit or like unique things about them. That's my thing. I didn't do that to you, did I?
I don't remember.
I mean, like, sometimes if I'm out at a bar, one thing I always notice is people's shoes, because I wear like Chelsea boots, and I love Chelsea boots. And if I see another guy with Chelsea boots, I'm always, I don't know, it's almost like a reflex. I feel like I have to compliment them on it. And then we just bond because we're like, oh, you like Chelsea boots too? Me too. Do you remember like the winery almost did that? We were at the winery and the one guy had it.
Yeah.
And I almost wanted to compliment him, but he was having a conversation and I didn't want to like butt in. But in general, things like boots, or someone has like a nice watch, you can compliment their watch. Usually with dudes, if you do that, they're really receptive because most dudes don't really get compliments on their outfits. Leather jackets. I like to wear a leather jacket. So if I see a guy or a girl with a leather jacket or a coat or something like that, I'll compliment them. That's sort of, if you're out and about, I think that's a good way to meet new people, because usually people are friendly. People don't really go. I've yet to meet someone who will be mean and reject a compliment. Hey, I like your boots. Fuck you. It's like that. It usually doesn't happen, at least in my experience. So that's a way if you don't want to use the internet.
I read on your website a while ago about saying somebody's name a lot of times.
Yeah.
I am terrible with names. So I think people would like it if you remember their names the first time that you say it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good strategy too. Like if they tell you their names, you would be like, hey.
Like,
Libby.
yeah. Yeah. That's
so Libby, you said it.
That's another one too. If you want to like really build rapport with somebody quickly, say their name. I don't say people's name that much if I know them. Like if I know, let's just say Dave. Yeah. I don't sit there in every sentence say Dave. Like I don't know. That's just not the way I talk. But if it's someone brand new and his name says John, my thing is I like to try to use their name at least 2 or 3 times within the first few minutes of meeting them. Especially because most people don't listen to names. I feel like most people, you hear the name, someone goes up, hey, my name's John. Oh, hey, my name's Lenny. And then you kind of forget it because you weren't really paying attention anyway, because it's more of a habit that we do as humans. We don't really focus on the actual words during that initial interaction. But if I met someone and his name's John, I'll say, hey, John, nice to meet you. By the way, John, how's your day going? Oh, that's cool, John. Okay, nice to meet you, man. And then you've said it 3 times, and it doesn't sound weird. Then you remember it. And sometimes in my head, too, I like to link certain names with objects or things that are easy to remember. For example, there's a guy at this bar that we go to. His name's Steven. He was a waiter. We met him like twice. And I remember his name Steven just because he had black glasses. And for whatever reason, Steven sounds like an intelligent name, so I linked it to the glasses. So now I don't forget Steven. So whenever I see him, I'm like, oh, glasses, Steven. The 2 are linked in my head. I don't know. I did the same thing with Ida because she had curly hair. So for whatever reason, like I thought curly when I heard the name Ida, because I don't meet too many Idas. So that's almost like a feature of her.
I changed his name. I was like, you're going to be Livy.
She assigned me a new name.
Yeah. Another thing too is when somebody is asking you like, hey, how are you? And you're not really paying attention, or like you don't really care for the answer. So you're not going to say anything. I would say something else. Say something that's meaningful to you and to the person, so that you can really bond, instead of, hey, how was your week? Like, I never saw you in my entire life. I don't care how was your
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I thought of that I do a lot, because I feel like it throws people off, and I feel like it's a good way to keep people in a conversation, is I try to give a very weird answer to what people expect. So if someone says, how's your day? Some people I say it's bad. It was terrible. terrible day. It's actually happened. I do that to you a lot, I think.
A lot, yeah. And I'm like, why are you being so negative?
I met some guy for coffee like recently. A guy that's supposed to be a guest on the show. I just met him. He's like, hey man, how's your day? And I was like, it's awful. He's like, what? And I was like, it's been terrible. He's like, why? And I was like, no, I'm just fucking with you. It was good. It's been a great day. But then it just throws people off, and I think it gets them engaged in the conversation.
Yeah, because you're not really expecting, so.
Yeah. And then you can do it. You don't have to be negative about it too. I do it to be funny, but you can also say it's been fantastic, or use a nice adjective that's better than good, because good's boring and good's standard. You can just say, oh yeah, my day's been exemplary. Yeah, and people are like, what? Exemplary? It's a new word. I've never heard that.
What's wrong with this guy?
That's weird. Exemplary. But yeah, I forget what the original question was, but I feel like we answered it.
Yeah, I think we answered it.
Ooh, look at that.
Is it time?
The alarm. Should we do one more, or
let's do one more?
One more?
Yeah. Okay. How can I maintain a healthy work-life balance?
It doesn't exist. Work-life balance is garbage. It doesn't exist. Don't try to maintain one. Let your work and life destroy you from the inside out.
That sounds very negative.
No, I'm joking, but I don't know if I believe in work-life balance. I mean, I guess in a general way, you can't neglect people too much, but I like the idea of making your life work. Like, does that make sense? Like, if you can have something that you do that's so enjoyable, it just becomes a part of your life. I think that's the best way to go about the work-life balance.
Yeah. Somebody said if you pick something that you love, you're not going to have to work for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's the way I see it. I mean,
I agree, I think. I think you have to enjoy what you do. And if you don't enjoy, if you're doing something because you have to, you're in a position where I can quit this. It doesn't need to be work itself. It could be school. Like, I'm in school now because I had to maintain my statuses. So if you're doing something that you don't love as much, just try to get something out of it, and just be positive. And if you're positive and you see things with I don't know the word for it. But like it's
optimistic
view. like the experience of my half cup, half empty, half full.
Yeah, we were just talking about this.
We talked about it yesterday. So I think I had to go from there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about an old friend of mine who one of my philosophies is I don't like the idea of just working. I don't like the idea of being in a job you dislike so much that 80% of your life is misery, and you're really just hoping for that 20% that makes things work. I had a friend who he would hate going to work. He was a roommate of mine, and every time he went to work, he was like, "Oh, gotta go to work," and it'd be such a chore for him to go to work every time. Every day it'd be a chore. He's like, gotta go to work. And then he'd go on vacation because he had long weekends. The moment he went on vacation, it was like such a joy to him. Like, he would look forward to it for months, just plan everything out, go on vacation. But it would be such a short vacation every time because he had long weekends. And it felt like when he was going, he was excited. But then when he came back, he was immediately unhappy because he knew that the next day or so was back to work. And to me, my thing was, I don't know. My philosophy is like, work is 80% of your life. Most people are going to work until, in the past, until you're like in your 60s. Now you're going to work until 70s or 80s or 90s. I don't know. Depending on technology, who knows how long you'll be working. So my thing is, if you're going to work most of your life, why not do something you enjoy doing? And I don't even think some people focus on money too much. I think even if you get a good job that pays a lot and you hate the job, to me that doesn't outweigh the stress that comes with that job. If you make $400,000 a year, let's say, put you in the top 1% of American earners. If you make $400K a year, but you work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, you don't get to see your family, you hate your life, maybe you get 2 vacations that are a week long each. I don't think I'd like to live a whole year unhappy just to maybe get 2 weeks of happiness. Because it's a maybe, because the vacations could be trash. Because not every vacation ends up good. Bad stuff happens on vacation.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not worth it. It's like, okay, I got money, but everything else sucks. And I can't even spend it because I'm always working. So I don't know. To me, that's not a good life. So the work-life balance would be get new work, find new work that's better for your life.
Use your time, your extra time, to create something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I read somewhere, mind your own business, so that create something that you enjoy doing, so that you can quit what you don't like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good way to go about it. Yeah, good way to go about it. But yeah, so that was the last question. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, leave a comment. Let us know if we should do more of these, because we had about 135 questions on the list, and we did about 7.
I think so.
So we got plenty of questions that we can go through.
I really enjoy it. Did you like it?
I had a good time.
Good.
I had a good time. It was interesting. Very interesting questions. But yeah. Got anything else? Any final thoughts? Last words?
I think that's it, guys. Leave us a comment below.
She's doing the YouTube thing.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
But yeah, that'll be the video, guys. Let us know if you enjoyed the content, and we'll make more of these. Peace out.